Greetings, gaming citizens. Mike here. PAX East. So, anyone that knows me, I've probably said this like every other year that I've done these, but PAX East is a very special event to me. It's the only major games industry event that really happens in New England, much less the Boston area. So, I had to make the most of it, as always, and judging by the sweatshirt, you could see that it went pretty well. So for stuff that was different this time, I had a media badge for the very first time. So, yeah, I got to explore PAX East in a new way once more. So last year we had the exhibitor badge. This year we had the media badge. So, it was a very different vibe. Positively speaking, of course. It was a great time. So I'm making this video to kind of detail some of the adventures I went on, just talking about how much fun I really had at PAX East this year. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting on Wednesday, it was day 0, and because I wanted to avoid all of the lines, the will call, the yada yada yada, I wanted to pick up my media badge that day. So I decided to take the day off of work and just go into Boston. All right, welcome to day 0. Now, probably wondering two things. 1, why am I starting this video in my car? And 2, why do I have a bucket of coffee? To answer one of those questions, I have a caffeine problem. But to answer the other one, you can actually see the logo in the background. That was not intentional. I'm driving into Boston today for day 0, Wednesday. So to get y'all up to speed, I have a media badge. Thank you to Dan Reb from SmashPad. His website is who I've been writing for I think the past 9 months. I'm not mathing right now, but sounds about right. Now I've been reviewing games on SmashPad.com. Check out my work, please. It's a great site, and it's been a way for me to build up a portfolio as I work on getting further into the games industry. But yeah, because I've been writing for that site, and we have like connections with those game developers and publishers all across the spectrum, PAX was gracious enough to give me a media badge to represent SmashPad. So I've been able to get demo appointments and stuff, and it's my first time with a media badge, like baby's first media badge. It's great. So that's kind of what is going on this year's PAX. Last year, it was being an exhibitor for the first time. This time, I'm a media for the first time. Who knows where we're going to end up next year? So, yeah, I'm driving into the city to pick up my media badge because I'm only about like 45 minutes out of the city. So it's not a terrible drive. But, yeah, in case you're wondering why I'm in my car instead of recording at home like usual, that's why. So, hopefully we can pick up the badge. Shouldn't be any problems there. But I also want to see if I can network with people, see who's hanging around the Westin, and maybe get a little bit of writing done on some video ideas that I have. Hopefully they come out soon after this one. Life has been difficult lately, so it's been hard to really write. But that's a story for another day. I'll see you when I see you, I guess. We made it inside. I'm being careful about where to turn around because I don't know what I can and can't show. Don't want a repeat of last year. Well, nothing happened last year, but trying to be as cautious as I can. But we made it. I just saw an army of like 50 people with Nintendo lanyards walk past me. Nintendo has like an entire like army division over there. I'm seeing them struggle to get through like the single doorway, and it's very funny. I think I don't know, I'm being weird. But yeah, we made it in, got media badge. This feels crazy. I didn't think I would ever have a media badge at a PAX, but here we are. 2026 is about to be a wild year as a journalist. an up-and-coming journalist, I guess. God, I really want to see the expo hall, but I'm pretty sure they won't let me in there. Even if I claim to have, like, the most charisma out of everyone here, which is probably not true, but whatever. I'm acting awkward because I'm filming in a public space. Can you tell? So I guess all that's left to do now is hang out at the Westin, I guess. If I happen to find anything while I'm exploring, as much as they'll let me, guess I'll report back with some of that. So, not sure where I'll end up next, but we'll figure it out. All right. That was the day. Not a whole lot happened. I saw some people come in here and there. But it was a pretty good day. I just mostly spent some time, like, writing interview questions for my various demo appointments. I wrote down questions for, like, CRKD, I guess it's pronounced correct. I'm really interested in the Nitro deck, too, because the original Nitro deck looked really cool. So I can't wait to get my hands on that and, like, try it out and try out their controllers. Hypercam with their retro consoles. And then some game demos for Grave Seasons by Blumhouse. That's going to be cool. Very interested in that. Checking out Aether and Iron, which shockingly is an off-site thing, which is strange. It's a debut indie. So how do they have the money to, you know, buy an off-site location instead of a booth? I don't get it, man, but that's how they're doing it. So, overall, pretty good day. And the person that handed me my media badge, strangely enough, was the CEO of the PR agency that does work with PAX. So, that was pretty awesome. Really nice to get to know him. Otherwise, when I was just hanging out in the Westin lobby, I didn't really see many people except for, like, 6-1 Indie. Great guys. They recognized me from last year, which was pretty cool. But yeah, otherwise, I guess everyone just kind of kept to themselves. So, a pretty low-key day, but it's all in good fun. So, I'm gonna just start driving home. First time as media. I'm scared, man. I shouldn't be. Game developers are more afraid of you than you are of them. Don't feed them unless if the zookeeper says you can. Yeah, I have nothing to be worried about. But I did see the Nintendo booth. Dude, during media hour, I'm going there first. I am literally going to be there like an hour early, just so, like an hour before media hour, just so I can get like a top spot in line. That is how crazy I am about this. Probably not going to work out that way. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to drive home and it's going to be PAX time, baby. Let's go. Little did I know that it was really the Omni that was kind of the happening spot. So I guess if you're looking for all the big name people, I guess the Omni is where you go for future reference. I learned that pretty much off the cuff this year. Anyway, so yeah, I went to the Westin and I was floating around and catching up with some people. I ran to 6-1 Indie, formerly the guys from 6-1 Indie, because one of them is no longer with them. Rest in peace, Mike. He's not dead. He's just not with 6-1 Indie anymore. I salute you, sir. But it was great to catch up with some people and just kind of hang out, work on some interview questions that I had for all the demo appointments that I had coming up throughout the weekend, and just getting myself all hyped up. Thursday, day one. I was an idiot. So, Spot Hero is what I use to pay for parking. It's what I discovered it last year, and it was absolutely clutch. I was able to prepay for my parking. It was fantastic. So I used it again this year. Not sponsored, by the way. Doors open, though. But I realized when I drove in to the parking lot that I paid for, I didn't read the instruction that said, scan the QR code and the gate will open up automatically. I thought I had to just scan the credit card that I used to pay for parking originally, and that
maybe in the system it would line up or something. No, it did not. So I accidentally paid for parking a second time on Thursday. I figured out how stupid I was by Friday, but yeah, we were off to a good start that day. Okay, we're off to a good start. So I thought I prepaid for parking on Spot Hero. Um, I've never had a problem with them. They're not sponsoring, but doors open. But anyway, yeah, I thought I prepaid for my parking and everything, but it turns out I don't know. Like, I guess I had to pay again, so we're kind of off to a rough start. Because I had prepaid for my parking through Spot Hero, so I figured, oh, I just show up to the gate and they let me in. Didn't really work, so not really sure what to do. Adulting is hard, so now we're out about God, how much that's gonna cost. I don't even know. But we're on our way to pick up a coffee because I have a caffeine problem. And then it's PAX time, baby. It's gonna be awesome. All right, so new to PAX East this year, because I always have to try a new gimmick with trying to look like a serious journalist. This $20 phone mount I found on Amazon. That's literally it. So the idea is that this will allow me to use my phone hands-free, so I can give you better gameplay shots of when I'm at a demo station or at a demo appointment. Hopefully it'll be more stable. I won't use this when I'm like walking around, but it should be pretty stable when I'm just like sitting at a booth. So we're gonna give it a shot, because last year I literally strapped a camera to my body with my backpack straps, and that looked janky as all hell. So we're gonna try this. Hopefully it works. Haven't really been able to test it, but that is the game plan. Got about, last I checked, like half hour until media hour. We're gonna try to like sprint from the Nintendo booth or walk as fast as security will let me. And then I've got like back-to-back appointments all day, so this is about to get real messy real fast. Stick around. Thursday was kind of a day of rocky starts and kind of going in guns blazing, doing the whole around and find out strategy. So this also carried over into Media Hour, the illustrious Media Hour that I always hear so much about. Oh my god, Media Hour, a whole hour on the show floor before all the regular people walk in. Wow, awesome. I tried to show up from the Nintendo booth during Media Hour thinking that, not many people are going to be at the Nintendo booth during Media Hour. Boy, was I stupid. So, yeah, I spent like 40 minutes or most of my Media Hour time standing in line before I realized, wait a minute, I have an appointment at 10 a.m. and Media Hour goes from 9 to 10. The average queue time is like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So the math wasn't mathin', so I had to drop out and save the Nintendo booth expedition for another day. But it's fine. I got to walk around the expo hall a little bit, kind of the calm before the storm, get a vibe of, what's really going on. What does everything look like? It was awesome. So that was a really cool opportunity. Definitely going forward, I'm going to be less stupid with my Media Hour. And by that I mean I'm not going to put an appointment right at the beginning on Thursday. That way I can, if Nintendo does come back next year, please, I hope you do, Nintendo, because you're definitely watching this. Want to be able to do that during Media Hour. I think that would be cool. I was a little silly. I was a little goofy with my time management there, but it's all right. So at 10 a.m., it rolls around, the doors open, the floodgates open, all the normal people walk in, and the party's getting started. So it's at this time that I had my first media preview. It was a dinosaur-themed Metroidvania called According to the developers, which I spoke with, very kind people, by the way, the gameplay elements consist of eating enemies to gain health, and in some cases, you gain powers from bosses that you fight. I didn't get to play too much of this. The demo on the show floor was actually extended, like an extended version of what's currently available on Steam. There were some extra bosses, so it was cool to see some exclusive show floor content. But yeah, I thought was a really solid Metroidvania. I had a skill issue, and I warned the developers about that. They were totally fine with that, watching me die over and over because I'm bad at Metroidvanias, but I still love them. But Gnaw is a visually fascinating game. I feel like the colors really popped. I thought it looked wonderful. The graphics make the game almost cartoonish, but it still carries that vibe of like, oh shit, the city is destroyed. Like, it's apocalyptic, but at the same time cartoony. You get what I'm saying? Like, it looks good. I really like it. One thing that kind of put me off, though, was that I found a weird bug where switching costumes made the game freeze. Not a huge deal. We were able to kind of navigate around that. But yeah, the game comes out in 2027, so I'm not too worried about it. They're probably going to iron that out. Yeah, while they're still working on it. But it was a fun experience, a decent element of challenge, like with most Metroidvanias. And like with most Metroidvanias, I'm probably going to play it and be really bad at it, but I'm still going to have a damn good time. So, definitely a solid first game to start with for my PAX East.
Alright, just got done playing Gnaw. That's like a dinosaur-themed Metroidvania. That game was excellent. I sucked at one of the bosses to the point where I had to cut my appointment time. Like, I had to stop before I started bleeding into other possible appointment slots. Yeah, that was an excellent game. Comes out next year. I'm gonna have my impressions right now. By the way, for any game that I do play, you can find my work on SmashPad.com. Check it out. It's where I'm gonna write all my previews. But yeah, I've got about a half hour, and then I've got another appointment with some hardware and accessories people. So that's gonna be fun. PAX is already off to a great start. Couldn't quite get the Nintendo booth today, so it's probably not gonna happen. Might have to save that for tomorrow or Saturday. Depends on what the vibe is. But we're off to a good start. We're having fun.
Then, immediately after, I had an appointment with Cracked, who they make, like, accessories, controllers, and stuff for things. I was about to say for Switch, but bear with me for a second. So, I checked out the Nitro Deck 2, the follow-up to the original Nitro Deck product, as the 2 would suggest. But it's also because it's compatible with both Switch 1 and Switch 2. I felt like it was relatively comfortable to use. It's basically an extension of the Switch, where you take the screen out, like you take the Joy-Cons off and put the screen in, and you get Hall effect joysticks, you get all these extra bells and whistles, like extra programmable buttons on, like the back of the, I don't want to, not the handles, but on the sides, on the back, you got these like back paddles that you can program to any button input. Some nice like quality of life improvements there. Yeah, it felt nice, and obviously Hall effect joysticks are a net positive, especially considering the abysmal nature of Nintendo. We're not getting into that though. But it felt really good to hold in the hands. However, I wasn't big on the material used. I felt like I want to choose my words carefully, but I probably will still sound like an asshole. So just bear with me here. It felt cheaper than, you know, maybe like a typical like Pro controller. It wasn't bad quality. Let me be clear. It was fine enough. It got the job done. It was satisfying to use. I just felt like the glossy plastic finish just made it feel a certain way that didn't leave me confident in the build quality. Um, I only had a few minutes with it, so it wasn't bad by any means. It was unique. I'll put it that way. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, I played a bit of Mario Kart World with it. It worked. I mean, go figure. They're showing it off on the show floor. Of course, it worked. But like, it was pretty good. I'm sure if I spent more time with it, it would probably grow on me. But Nitro Deck 2, pretty cool stuff, I gotta say. But then they also walked me through some of their other controllers they had on the show floor, including their Pro controller. Now, this I felt nice to use. I really like this one. It also has several preset buttons, so you can save like button map profiles for different games. So you have like 5 different, I guess, profiles you can switch between, which I thought was a really nice change because sometimes you want to play games a certain way, but you don't want to have to remap the buttons every single time. So I think that was a really good idea for the Pro controller. The build quality, I actually felt like it was a little bit better than the Nitro deck. I don't know if it's like down to the materials or just the fact that it's a Pro controller and not just something that's trying to take on a similar shape to the Switch 2, but it just felt more satisfying to hold and to use. And I was playing a little bit of Smash Ultimate, and I actually unlocked Inkling when I was trying out this controller. That was kind of funny. I would think that if you're showing off accessories on the show floor and you're going to have Smash there, the fact that they only had like 8 playable characters, they didn't even have the whole roster, that was a choice. That was interesting. But yeah, Pro Controller was pretty good, I thought. I thought it was pretty nice. By the way, all these products, as far as I know, editor, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe all of these are currently on up for order or pre-order. I think they ship out in June, but again, correction will be on screen if necessary. So these are all available to either get right now or put your money down, and you'll get it pretty soon. They also showed off the Atom Plus controller. So it's a very tiny controller, essentially like a sideways Joy-Con. It was impressively like just a really small, like it fits in the palm of your hand. But like the fact that it's small to begin with is already crazy, but it's only slightly bigger than its predecessor. The only difference is this has joysticks. I guess the original didn't because it was so small. You can't really fit a joystick on something the size of like, I don't know, a business card holder. But I thought it was a very novel idea. True to its size, it felt a bit too small for it to be practical for me personally. I don't have like huge hands, but it still felt a little compromising to use for me personally. But I could see it being pretty nice. I guess for smaller people or for like retro games. Stuff that doesn't require like expert like button combinations or like anything too complex. I feel like it's a tiny controller, easy to pack, gets the job done. It's also Bluetooth compatible. This and the Pro controller are Bluetooth compatible with PC. So you can also play stuff from your Steam library, or I want to say you could hook it up to your Xbox ROG Ally, but I don't know if that's actually the case. Yeah, their controllers were pretty interesting. There was also their guitar controller, but I'm not a rhythm game guy, and I felt bad because both Cracked and the next company I'm going to talk about had really cool rhythm controllers, but I can't really do rhythm games. I just can't. I feel bad. Cool stuff, though. So they also have that, if that is your jam. No pun intended. So next, I went to Hyperkin. So I had like Cracked and Hyperkin basically right next to each other for my demo appointments. So I got a whole like 2 hours worth of like checking out controllers and stuff. It was awesome. So Hyperkin, if you don't know, they make the Retron systems. I think they're FPGA systems. I'm a little rusty on the terminology, but they make like essentially emulation machines or not emulation, but you could plug in your authentic cartridges and it'll play them in modern formats. Like it's HDMI compatible. So it's like a modern solution for playing your retro games with some added functionality for like modern TVs and customizability. Anyway, I got to check out their specialized Retron consoles. So they made specialized systems modeled after the Sega Genesis. I don't know why I had to remember that. I almost said like Sega Mega Drive, but that's the exact same thing. Whatever. Sega Genesis and the SNES. And you could see like from the footage, they are like faithful recreations of those consoles. I thought that was really cool. I really like how they are modeled faithfully after the systems that they support. So historically, Retron has made like just a system with like 5 different cartridge slots for all kinds of systems. But I wanted to ask them, like, why are they now pivoting to just making systems that only specialize in like one console or another? And what they told me is that people who buy those Retron systems, those older ones, seldom really have all the cartridges and make use of all the different systems that are compatible. So instead of having like a Retron system that's compatible with NES, SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, like, why have a system that could do all 5 of these when you could just get the Super Nintendo variant to play specifically Super Nintendo if that's all you're really looking for? Which I feel like makes perfect sense. And I think that is a benefit to them. They're able to still model this stuff after the original systems, but the Retrons, they kind of just looked like generic box that you can plug a thing into. So I think design-wise, but also philosophy-wise, it works out really well. They also had their own kind of Pro controller called the Competitor. This felt very good to use. I was very happy with this controller. It has the same comfort and general shape as a DualSense controller, so it actually felt really good quality to use. It was also nice of them to make it a twin stick layout instead of the typical offset stick layout like on one of these controllers. Instead, it's more like one of these. So it's really helpful for people that just have that preference, that like to play certain games that way. So just a nice little, I guess, touch of accessibility, if you will. They also showed me their FPGA N64 system, and it looks like a nice system for modern retro emulation, which sounds like a paradox now that I say it out loud, but the modern features like Hall effect sticks in their rendition of the N64 controller and HDMI output are welcome additions to this N64. So I love that. They also showed me the 3-in-1 cable. So it's a nice addition, removing some of the guesswork of how do I plug in my older system to work on a modern display. So if you don't have a Retron, like say you didn't get the Retron Super for the Super Nintendo, you have an OG Super Nintendo, like an authentic model, you want to play that on a modern TV, you don't have to worry about the guesswork. This cable is essentially, I don't want to say an all-in-one solution, but it is a pretty comprehensive solution for making a lot of these more popular retro systems compatible with modern displays. So I think that is a really cool product that they also introduced. So all the power to them on that. And they demonstrated it with the GameCube. So no having to worry about like paying $150 for those like proprietary composite cables. They also had their own rhythm game controller. So again, rhythm games are not my thing, but they have a fully modular guitar controller. That is really cool. I am not involved in rhythm games at all, so I don't quite know the extent of how practical this is, but just from what they showed me of like the pre-production sample that they had, that was really cool. I really hope it takes off. So yeah, shouts to Hyperkit. You guys cooked. that is some cool stuff. My second game preview was actually an offsite meeting, so I felt like I was invited to a little secret meeting, or getting some exclusive information. It felt really cool. So I got to play Aether and Iron, developed by Seismic Squirrel, a debut indie developer based in Washington State. This is really cool. Think games like Disco Elysium. It's a strategy RPG heavily driven by narrative. I got to play a bit further into the game than what the public could get their hands on. So I had a bit of a exclusive hands-on time with the game, but I also interviewed the developers, and I don't know if I could show any gameplay. The game is out, so you can buy it right now. So what I will say is that I interviewed the developers. I sat down with him for like an hour to chat with everybody. So if you want to check out my interview with the developers of Aether and Iron, as well as all the other coverage from PAX East, go to SmashPad, because that's who I was, doing all these demo appointments for at PAX East. So yeah, link will be in the description down below to all the articles that I put out for PAX East coverage. What I will say is that talking with the developers, it was very insightful to get, I guess, just some insight on the world of being a debut indie and pursuing your creative vision. And the dedication to the craft makes this title a labor of love to narrative-driven experiences like Disco Elysium, but also just like seeing how these people came from like indie AAA backgrounds and they all just decided to jump on this passion project. It's a wonderful story, and I really hope this game takes off. I think it's fantastic, and if you love games like I said, like Disco Elysium, definitely worth checking this out. All right, so just got done with Aether and Iron. Honestly, I was surprised. A debut indie title decided to rent out a conference room and let me play the demo and like talk with the team for like a solid hour. So that was an excellent experience. I think just coming away from impressions, I played a little bit of what's not public yet in the demo, but there is a demo on Steam. It's very interesting. Like, they were very careful when I mentioned or asked about what they were inspired by. It's very similar to Disco Elysium, and when I mentioned that, they were flattered by the comparison, but they were very insistent that this is their creative vision. They just were on a journey to make something unapologetically their project and put their full faith behind it. I think that's reflected in the quality of the narrative, the gameplay. So I think Aether and Iron is looking to be a very solid game. If you like Disco Elysium, definitely give it a try. Like I said, there's a demo on Steam. So now I gotta find out how the hell to get back to the expo hall, because I forget what stream I'm on. So I'm gonna figure that out, and I'll let you know if I play anything cool the rest of the day. And that was the end of day one. We had a handful of demo appointments, but a hell of a lot of fun. And $35 extra in the hole because I paid for parking twice like an idiot. I still can't believe I did that, but we be stupid sometimes.
Alrighty, day 2. I kind of saved this whole thing for when I felt a lot more awake. Of course, caffeine. So what's the game plan today, you might be wondering? Well, my digital friend. Not a lot, actually. So yesterday, I took a list of some games that looked interesting that I wanted to get to on the show floor. So that's probably going to be where I hit up first. Yeah, it's kind of... I have way less appointments today. So in my infinite wisdom, I had 4 or 5 different appointments yesterday. I probably looked dead in the footage. So you can imagine how that went. But right now, I'm actually just kind of walking around, just exploring the building. I want to check out the media lounge at least once. Because, I have the badge. I may as well see what it's all about. But yeah, it's just going to be a bit more low-key today. Only got a couple of meetings. Yeah, I don't have much to say here. Truthfully, it is way less busy than yesterday. So kind of glad I got a lot of my appointments out of the way. Gives me more time to have fun. So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
So, Friday, it's day 2, and I kicked things off with, honestly, I was excited that I even managed to get the time of day with these people. Grave Seasons from Blumhouse Games. They looked at smelly old Mike and went, yeah, we'll let this guy check out this game, talk with our narrative director for 30 minutes. Hell yeah. I know for a fact I can't show anything about this game, so you're going to have to just take my word for it for whatever I say about Grave Seasons. But I think it's a very interesting twist on the farming sim genre. I usually associate farming sims with like a very cozy, wholesome vibe. Like a lot of games in like Wholesome Games Showcase will just be like wholesome, grow a farm, crops, friends. Yes. Grave Seasons, it's like, yeah, grow crops and, be friends with people, but what if they also died? It's a hell of a lot. The demo did not do the game justice, but what I gathered is that you go through a year of maintaining a farm while also having a hand in uncovering a murder mystery that happens around town. That's the most I can really talk about. That's the most that they would be willing to tell me, anyway. So I feel like the big piece that holds this gameplay concept together is being kind of withheld until launch, which makes total sense. I believe it comes out this August, so gotta wait just about 4 more months, but based on what I played, I think it'll be very worth your while. What I will say as well from what I have seen is that character interactions feel more impactful with, trying to figure out who be dying, who be killing people, what's going on. Like, the character depth is absolutely there. I think there was a lot to explore about that. And as a funny side, you can use a crowbar to break into people's houses. So instead of just walking into random buildings like in a typical, like, I don't know, like an RPG or something, where you just walk into houses and talk with people, it's like nothing, you could just literally break in through someone's front door and they react realistically of like, how the hell did you get in my house? I think that part is just really funny. I think a lot of people are really going to get into that.
Hello, I have a chicken on my head. That's how my morning is going. So, I was just over at Blumhouse Games. I was invited to try out Grave Seasons. So it's like a farming simulator with social deduction elements. I want to make a joke that it's like Among Us but agriculture. I don't. Is there a joke there? Let me know. Excellent demo. I'm excited to try out the full game. I can't share footage of what I played. Kind of a bit of a truncated build. But excellent work. People at Blumhouse are, take a look at that. That booth is crowded. Everyone's excited about horror stuff. There's a lot of horror games at PAX this time around. Very interesting, bit of an interesting trend. So that was one of my few appointments today. So I've only got one more. That's later in the day, so plenty of time to play some more games. Time to check out some more stuff. The chicken has a knife.
After my appointment with Blumhouse, I briefly checked out the SNHU booth to look at some student projects. So, fun fact, I was an alumni. I worked on the esports program, so I wanted to see how some of my homies over there were doing. I got to check out this game that my friend worked on, or is working on. It's in active development. I think he just put it in early access, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a demo out. Codex Combat. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like, I don't know. It reminded me of Hearthstone at first, just from the UI, but it's like an auto battle. It's really fascinating. Words cannot do it justice. Like different colors have different abilities, and that all kind of interact with each other. And there's just a lot of elements at play. Again, it's hard to really put words into it. I just recommend check it out on Steam. Help my friend out. I think this game is pretty cool, and I would really like to see it get some more attention. So check it out. When I was roaming around, I happened to notice Disgaea Mayhem, was at the NIS America booth, and I thought, what is a Disgaea Mayhem? Because I totally forgot that this game was even announced. So, Disgaea Mayhem. It is essentially a Disgaea Dynasty Warriors. It's hacking and slashing through enemies. That typical gameplay structure. I found it to be pretty fun from what I played. I don't have too many impressions of it because I don't know. It seems like just kind of they had a couple of like demo missions up. So that's all I really got to play around with. But I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a fun time, and if you like Dynasty Warriors and somehow also are really into Disgaea, I think this will be a really good game for you. The only thing that was off-putting was that the horny character designs were still very present in that demo. But just, some of the character designs still surprise me. My fourth game preview that I had on the show floor was at the Games from Poland booth. They're always putting out a lot of cool stuff. I always underestimate how many game developers are in Poland. And it's impressive, like, what they put out. So one of the games that caught my attention was Whispers of the Eyeless. It's an interesting spin on turn-based RPGs. It's more of a turn-based auto-battler. So you essentially go through a journey where you establish a cult and you grow it with resources found from dungeons, doing quests, and you also recruit people in the town to gain more influence. And this is like a very weird comparison, but it's like a 2D Cult of the Lamb. It doesn't quite have the roguelike elements of that, but there is like a roguelite mode, if that's something that's more your speed. I found it to be a little tricky to get into. There was a lot to look at starting out, like on the UI. Like there were a lot of like symbols. I didn't know what any of them meant. But I was assured that things would make sense the longer that I played with this game. And next thing I know, I sat there and played for like 30 to 40 minutes. I have like 40 minutes of footage of my phone just recording the screen. So I guess it worked. But yeah, I'm not 100% sold on this game, but it isn't bad. I think it's a good game. There was plenty of more to dive into from what I could see in the demo that I played. So yeah, I think it's a good game. I just didn't get enough time to really get a sense of the scope of the game. But it still looks pretty cool.
Okay, just got out of my appointment for Whispers of the Eyeless. That's definitely the most complex game that I've tried on the floor today. Or just in general, it's very mechanics heavy. There is a big emphasis on systems in game. You're basically maintaining a cult and gaining followers. I didn't quite put it together. I actually spent a lot more time than I thought I would playing it because I was just very invested in like the medieval, like it looked like a hand-drawn environment. It was a very fascinating title. I'll be curious to learn more about it. I definitely have a lot of thoughts. Admittedly, a little bit of kind of getting lost in what I was playing. But yeah, right now I'm a free agent. That was my last appointment for the day. I guess just gonna run around and play a bunch of games, I guess. I don't really have anything else going on today. So I am a free agent for once. Way less busy than yesterday.
So that was the end of day 2, and I got a tip that the Omni was where people were hanging out. So I'm walking around with, my SmashPad friends. We're all just hanging out. We're like catching up with people. If I talk to you at the Omni, shout outs to you. Talk to a lot of great people there. But I don't even know how this happened. I was just standing around talking to people, and I look over someone's shoulder. Fucking Matt Mercer walks in the door, and we're all just like, is that Dice Daddy? We're just like, that is Matt effing Mercer. He just walked through the front door. Like, what an opportunity. Especially because, like, So I ended up talking to him, and I was wondering in my head, like, it's a little weird to ask, but like, did he remember me from the Game Awards? Because if you saw my video from when I went to the Game Awards last year, you'll know that I met him. He was like a few rows in front of me. He somehow recognized me. I thought that was the coolest thing ever to see Matt Mercer again, but that he remembered me. We had a good like chat, like we were just like, chumming it up. We were all just like friends there. I thought that was incredible. That was a highlight for me. I thought that was incredible. I could not believe that I just happened to run into Matt Mercer in a hotel lobby. Absolutely unreal. That was the highlight of that night, but also pretty much that weekend. Can you blame me? So Saturday rolls around. So for Saturday and Sunday, I was actually walking around with my college friends instead of just kind of freeballing it as a journalist. So it was more of a focus on just hanging out with friends and making sure that they had a good PAX. Because for a few of them, it was their very first PAX East, and I wanted to make sure they had a lot of fun. And from what I heard, they did. So mission accomplished. So starting off Saturday, we queued up in the Nintendo line immediately, and I finally got to play Pokemon Champions. It sure was a Pokemon battle simulator. That's literally it. Like, I didn't have huge expectations for it to begin with, but yeah, I am still worried that this game will put Pokemon Showdown in danger, because I feel like Nintendo is gonna be like, hey, we have, like, champions now. We don't have a need for a battle simulator like Showdown, so why don't you just, we're gonna DMCA you into oblivion, that way people have to pay our microtransaction-riddled free product. I'm worried about the future of Pokemon Showdown, even after playing Champions. Like, but also outside of that, who is this for? That's what I want to know. Who is Pokemon Champions for? Like, if it's just for the competitive circuit and you could just like import Pokemon from the mainline games and from home into Champions and play, like, cool. Couldn't that just be like an internal tool to use at the World Championships or something? I don't know. Like, maybe there's a larger plan that I'm not aware of, but I already wasn't sold on Champions, but this definitely didn't do any favors for me. I also don't have footage of this, but I got to play some Mario Wonder DLC with my friends, and that was pretty fun. Is it worth $20? I don't think so. But it was fun to try on a show floor. That is the value of it to me. It was very whatever demo, I guess. So I also checked out the Warframe dev stream panel. So you might be wondering, why the hell was I at a Warframe panel? I've never touched a Warframe. I don't know what a Warframe is. Low-key, I was curious about Soulframe. And after watching that whole panel, I'm kind of convinced to try Warframe. I kind of want to give it a shot. It looks cool. I just think it's yeah. I don't have a lot to say other than it looks cool, and I kind of want to try it, and I'm kind of excited about Soulframe. I really want to know more about that one. Overall, I didn't film much that day because I was hanging out with friends. So I hope you can understand. There isn't a lot of footage from Saturday or Sunday as a result, but just know fun times were had, and thankfully not a lot of money was spent. My wallet is pretty safe. Sunday, the last day, dawn of the final day. Okay, so I've been missing in action pretty much all day yesterday. I didn't really film much yesterday because I wanted to focus on just hanging out with friends. So yesterday and today, I've got my college friends exploring PAX with me. For some of them, it's the first time, so I didn't really film because I wanted to kind of show them the ropes of kind of how we roll around here. But I went to a trivia show hosted by Jacob McCourt. Incredible, like sold out the entire theater. Like he's a legend. If you ever see like a trivia night happening at PAX hosted by Jacob, go to that. That is like one of my top recommendations for a panel. So it's the last day of PAX. Not really much on the agenda, but yeah, we're just kind of doing one last loop around, and then that's pretty much it. Time always flies at a place like this, and I'm gonna miss it like usual. But hopefully I can at least show you the magic of PAX, even just a little bit. Also, I played Pokemon Champions, but you probably already saw like B-roll of that. That was awesome. Was it 2 hours waiting in line awesome? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Gonna drop for now. Guess I'll see if anything else wild comes up. Who knows?
There wasn't really much left to do, honestly. It was kind of just like I had no demo appointments, almost no meetings. Like, it was the day to run around and play some games. And, you know, that's kind of what I did. So I started off with checking out Bubsy 4D. That's a fun game. I can't wait for that. I'm really, like, I really like 3D platformers, so I actually reviewed Demon Tides for SmashPad couple months ago, and I really like that. So, you know, to finally try out Bubsy 4D, which the same developer is also working on this game, that was a really cool opportunity. And even better, the lead producer of the game was there. So him and I got to have like a really good talk about just like about Bubsy 4D, but also just how awesome 3D platformers were. So shout outs to Jason from Atari. Like, what a guy. Absolutely wonderful. I can't wait for Bubsy 4D. I really cannot wait. I never thought I'd say that about a Bubsy game, but here we are. One of the last games I tried out at the PAX Rising Showcase was Jig Rift. It's an interesting like 3D puzzle game, 3D puzzle platformer actually. So you connect islands together that are shaped like jigsaw pieces, and there's like some platforming elements of like exploring the island and trying to, you know, piece the whole world back together. I thought that was a really cool concept. I didn't play enough in this game to really have strong impressions, but I absolutely love what I played, and I really can't wait for the full game. Definitely want to check that out. Yeah, that was a great time. And that was PAX East. What a PAX. I probably say this every year, but this was probably the best PAX yet. Obviously, there were not a lot of AAA publishers and developers on the show floor. And, you know, obviously the industry is more than just that. But, you know, it felt a little empty compared to last year, where Trolley Gummy Worms had more of a presence than a lot of other game developers. And I thought that was a little sad. You know, I think it's just a reflection of the industry right now, where AAA is really trying to batten down the hatches on, you know, spending money. The fact that Nintendo even showed up was a miracle. I was shocked to hear about that happening. So I'm very thankful for that, but yeah, it was a little disappointing. There were less AAA publishers there. Not to say that indies are not as valuable. They absolutely are. And I feel like PAX East has definitely become more of a haven for finding a lot of these cool indie games. But yeah, it was just an observation that I and many other folks were kind of making throughout that whole weekend. But otherwise, I had a wonderful time. And going there as media for the first time was absolutely incredible. Thank you, SmashPad, for giving me the chance to like cover games on the show floor. Like, this was an unreal PAX East. It was incredible. It was great. So that's gonna be it for this year's PAX East video. So yeah, we got the next one at the end of April. So hopefully we're gonna have way better weather. But that's gonna be it for me. Stay vibing and thriving, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.